The views, information, and opinions expressed during the following program are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent the views of Access Communications, its representatives, or its employees.
Well, welcome to what is probably a hard council meeting for folks at home to hear. For the time being, we're going to fix that, I promise. But it is the Monday, November 25th, regular meeting of Weyburn City Council. Now, before we call this meeting to order, we have a little business to take care of. As most folks know, we just went through a municipal election. So there's a couple of new faces and a couple of experienced faces up here. So what I'd like to do before we start the swearing in ceremony is just go around the table and introduce Weyburn's new city council. So I'll start first with Councillor Kelly Sidlowski, Councillor Ryan Janke, Councillor Laura Morissette, go down here to Councillor Todd Bedore, Councillor Larry Higgs, and Councillor John Corrigan, and I'm Jeff Richards, the mayor. So I think we can start with the swearing-in ceremony. So Levi Parody from Parody Weger Law Firm will do that for us tonight, and then we will get our meeting officially kicked off. So who do you want first, Levi?
Just going to repeat after me.
Yes.
I, Jeff Richards,
I, Jeff Richards,
having been elected to the office of mayor
having been elected to the office of mayor
in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of this office.
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of this office.
I am qualified to hold the office to which I have been elected,
I am qualified to hold the office to which I have been elected,
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercise of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercise of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
I have read, understood, and agreed to abide by the Code of Ethics, Rules of Conduct, and Procedures applicable to my position as a member of council, required of me by the Cities Act and any other act, and by the council.
I have read, understand, and agree to abide by the Code of Ethics, Rules of Conduct, and Procedures applicable to my position as a member of council required of me by the Cities Act and any other act, and by the council.
I will perform the duties of the council imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law by the council, disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of Part 7 of the Cities Act, and comply with the Code of Ethics, Rules of Conduct, and Procedures applicable to the office I now hold and that are imposed by the Cities Act and any other act, and by the council.
I will perform the duties of office imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law, and by the council. I will disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of Part 7 of the Cities Act, and I will comply with the Code of Ethics, Rules of Conduct, and Procedures applicable to the office I now hold that are imposed by the Cities Act and any other act, and by the council.
Sign here.
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes. Todd Bedore. I, Todd Bedore, having been elected to the office of councillor in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
I, Todd Bedore, having been elected to the office of councillor in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
that I will truthfully, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of this office.
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of this office.
I am qualified to hold the office to which I have been elected,
I am qualified to hold the office of which I have been elected,
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercise of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercise of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
I have read, understood, and agree to abide by the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to my position as a member of council, required by me, by the Cities Act, and any other act, and by the council.
I have read and understand and agree to abide by the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to my position as a member of council, required of me by the Cities Act and any other act by this council.
I will perform the duties of office imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law and by the council. I will disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of Part 7 of the Cities Act, and I will comply with the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to the office I now hold that are imposed by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I will perform the duties of my office imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law and by the council. Disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of Part 7 of the Cities Act, and comply with the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to the office I hold that are imposed by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
Dr. John Corrigan.
Okay, I will need these.
I, Dr. John Corrigan, having been elected to the office of councillor in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
I, Dr. John Corrigan, having been elected to the office of councillor in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of this office.
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of this office.
I am qualified to hold the office to which I have been elected,
I am qualified to hold the office to which I have been elected,
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercise of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercise of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
I have read, understand, and agree to abide by the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to my position as a member of council, required of me by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I have read, understand, and agree to abide by the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to my position as a member of council required of me by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I will perform the duties of office imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law and by the council. I will disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of Part 7 of the Cities Act, and I will comply with the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to the office I now hold that are imposed by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I will perform the duties of office imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law and by the council, disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of the Part 7 of the Cities Act, and comply with the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to the office I now hold that are imposed by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
Sign on the right. I, Larry Higgs, having been elected to the office of councillor in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
I, Larry Higgs, having been elected to the office of councillor in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of this office.
that I will truthfully, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and my ability, perform the duties of this office.
I am qualified to hold the office to which I have been elected,
I am qualified to hold the office to which I have been elected,
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercise of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercises of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
I have read, understand, and agree to abide by the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to my position as a member of council required of me by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I have read, understand, and agree to abide by the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to my position as a member of council required to me by the Cities Act and any other act and the council.
I will perform the duties of office imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law and by the council. I will disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of Part 7 of the Cities Act, and I will comply with the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to the office I now hold that are imposed by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I will perform the duties of the office imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law by the council. Disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of Part 7 of the Cities Act and comply with the Code of Ethics, rules and conduct procedures applicable to the office I now hold and imposed by the Cities Act and any other act of council.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Ryan Janke. I, Ryan Janke, having been elected to the office of councillor in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
I, Ryan Janke, having been elected to the office of councillor in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of this office.
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my abilities and knowledge, perform the duties of this office.
I am qualified to hold the office to which I have been elected,
I am qualified to hold the office to which I have been elected,
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercise of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercise of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
I have read, understand, and agree to abide by the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to my position as a member of council, required of me by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I have read, understand, and agree to abide by the Code of Ethics, rules, laws, and conduct, and procedures applicable to my position as a member of the council, required of me by the Cities Act and by any other act and by the council.
I will perform the duties of office imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law and by the council. I will disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of Part 7 of the Cities Act, and I will comply with the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to the office I now hold that are imposed by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I will perform the duties of office imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law and by the council. I will disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of Part 7 of the Cities Act, and I will comply with the Code of Ethics, rules, and conduct and procedures applicable to the office I now hold that are imposed by the Cities Act and by any other act and by the council.
Laura Morissette. I, Laura Morissette, having been elected to the office of councillor in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
I, Laura Morissette, having been elected to the office of councillor in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of this office.
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of this office.
I am qualified to hold the office to which I have been elected,
I am qualified to hold the office to which I have been elected,
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercise of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercise of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
I have read, understood, and agreed to abide by the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to my position as a member of council, required of me by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I have read, understand, and agree to abide by the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to my position as a member of council, required of me by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I will perform the duties of office imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law and by the council. I will disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of Part 7 of the Cities Act, and I will comply with the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to the office I now hold that are imposed by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I will perform the duties of office imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law and by the council, disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of Part 7 of the Cities Act, and I will comply with the Code of Ethics, rules, and conducts and procedures applicable to the office I now hold that are imposed by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
Kelly Sadlowski. Last one. I, Kelly Sadlowski, having been elected to the office of councillor in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
I, Kelly Sadlowski, having been elected to the office of councillor in the city of Weyburn, do solemnly promise and declare
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of this office.
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of this office.
I am qualified to hold the office to which I have been elected,
I am qualified to hold the office to which I am elected, have been elected,
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercise of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise of payment or reward for the exercise of any corrupt practice or other undue execution or influence of this office.
I have read, understand, and agree to abide by the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to my position as a member of council, required by me of the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I have read, understand, and agree to abide by the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to my position as a member of council, required of me by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I will perform the duties of office imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law and by the council. I will disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of Part 7 of the Cities Act, and I will comply with the Code of Ethics, rules of conduct, and procedures applicable to the office I now hold that are imposed by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
I will perform the duties of office imposed by the Cities Act and any other act or law and by the council, disclose any conflict of interest within the meaning of Part 7 of the Cities Act, and comply with the Code of Ethics, rules and conduct, and procedures applicable to the office I now hold that are imposed by the Cities Act and any other act and by the council.
Thank you, Mr. Parody. Well done. I was told that all the councillors had a sheet to read off of. Why did I have to remember everything? No, I know it's not the same. All right, I think now we can officially call to order the first meeting of the new City Council. This is November 25th's regular Monday meeting. So the first thing I will look for is a motion to approve the minutes of the October 15th regular council meeting and the October 15th Strategic Planning and Priorities Committee meeting.
Your Worship, I can make that.
A seconder?
I'll second that motion, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Let's talk about the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda from council? From administration?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. So I have two changes to the agenda tonight. First is the removal of 10C, and addition will be under 10C now, which will be the water treatment plant chemical tender.
Good, thank you. So we'll look for a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll second that motion, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Great. Thanks. Okay, let's get rolling. First up, there are no public hearings or notices tonight. I believe we have no other delegations, proclamations, or petitions other than the swearing-in ceremony. And I'm going to feel like there will be no reports of standing committees tonight. All right. So next up is number 6, the consent agenda. I would look for a motion to get the consent agenda approved.
Your Worship, I'll make the motion that the following items on the consent agenda be approved: the accounts receivable report for September, the building report for October, the cash activity report for September, the fire department report for October, the public works report for October, and the water treatment report also for October.
Thank you. Could I get a seconder?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Thank you. So any discussion on those agenda items? Anything anybody wants to crack open? No? Hearing none? All in favor? Thank you. As always, those reports, if folks are interested, are available on the city website. All right, motions. We have a few to do. First is the accounts payable.
Your Worship, I would move that the purchases from October 1st, 2024 to October 31st, 2024 in the amount of $2,214,252.90 be approved for payment. The purchases include quick pays of $76,376.65, accounts payable of $1,629,494.05, direct withdrawals of $506,686.44, and debit card transactions of $1,695.76.
Thank you. And a seconder?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, any discussion on that? Nobody wants to break down some bills? No? Very good. All in favor? Thank you. Next up, I will look to City Clerk Clay to lead us through a discussion on the 2025 council meeting schedule.
Okay, so the council procedures bylaw states that the regular meeting of council shall be held on the second and fourth Monday of every month, unless otherwise directed by council by a resolution at a preceding council meeting. Each year, council passes a resolution to set the council meeting dates. Historically, council has chosen to cancel one meeting per month in July, August, and December to allow staff and council to take holidays at peak holiday times. In reviewing the 2025 calendar, the normal meeting dates in July would be July 14th and 28th, and August would be 11th and 25th, and for December would be the 8th and 22nd. Meetings that are affected by statutory holidays are the first meeting of October, which falls on Thanksgiving Day. According to the council procedures bylaw, anytime a regular council meeting falls on a statutory holiday, the meeting is moved to the next regular business day, so no motion is required for the change of date for those meetings. The following are the proposed dates for 2025 council. So January 12th and 27th, February 10th and 24th, March 10th and 24th, April 14th and 28th, May 12th and 26th, June 9th and 23rd, July 14th, August 11th, September 8th and 22nd, October 14th and 27th, November 10th and 24th, and December 8th. I would recommend that council approves the 2025 council meeting dates as presented.
Thank you. I'll look for a motion to approve that as presented.
Your worship, I'll make the motion that council approves the 2025 council meeting dates as presented.
Okay, and getting a seconder?
I can second that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any discussion or questions on this? Pretty straightforward, but no questions? Very good. Call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Good. Thank you. Next up, tax enforcement. The 6-month notice we'll look for to Director of Finance Masol for this.
Yes, thank you. So as per Section 23 of the Tax Enforcement Act, a 6-month notice will be sent out to the following properties. The 6-month notice will be served to all persons who appear on and have interest on title of the property, and the notice is served to give all the opportunity to redeem the land before the city authorizes proceedings to request title of the property from the Provincial Mediation Board. After a period of 6 months, the city will make a request from the PMB for consent of title, and this is all for taxes not paid for 2023 original roll. So there's a total of 20 properties for $51,795.49.
Thank you. Can we get a motion?
Your worship, I'll make the motion that the city assessor be authorized to continue under the Tax Enforcement Act to serve the 6 months notice to the properties listed above in the report.
Thank you. And a seconder?
I'll second that motion, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions of the Director of Finance? Councillor Morissette.
Thank you, Worship. Laura, is this fairly normal? Do we normally have 20 properties at this time of year that haven't paid their taxes for the previous year?
Yes, actually, I just looked back, and last year for the 2022, we had 68 properties and 164,000 outstanding, so it is lower.
Nothing else? Nope. We'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we need to appoint a building official. Turn it over to City Manager Warren for this.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. So the City of Weyburn currently contracts PBI, which is Professional Building Inspects, Inc., to provide qualified licensed building officials that administer, regulate, and enforce building codes and standards. There are 3 primary classes of licenses under which building officials are authorized to provide plan review, inspections, enforcement services, categorized by major occupancy and size of the building. So we have Class 1, which covers 1 and 2 unit dwellings. Class 2, which covers any buildings that fall under Part 9 of the National Building Code, including Class 1 and application of the National Energy Code of Canada for buildings to Part 9 buildings. And then we have Class 3, which covers all buildings under the NBC, including Class 1 and 2, and application of the NECB to all buildings. So under subsections 16.2 and 16.3 of the Construction Code Act, the municipality has the authority to appoint licensed building officials. So what we do is we actually bring this report to council every year. We started doing this last year to make sure we do the proper appointments to the PBI individuals who do inspections or who may do inspections within our municipality. So the names listed are Bob Baker, we got Virginia Shepley, Josh Nitz, Kristen Kursinski, David Kinred, John Dooley, and Charles Fiss. So we are making a recommendation to council to make the following appointments. So Bob Baker, who is a Class 3 building official, Virginia Shepley, who is a Class 3 building official as well, Josh Nitz, who is a Class 3, Christian Krasinski, which is an R Class 2, David Kindred, which is a Class 1, John Dooley, who is a Class 1, and Charles Fiss, who's a Class 1 as well.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
Your Worship, I'd like to make a motion that council appoints the following people as presented as licensed building officials for the City of Weyburn.
Thank you. And a seconder?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Thanks. Any discussion on this? Anybody have questions of administration?
Thanks, Matthew. Just wondering, is this a contract that we have with them, and do we ever plan on doing this in-house, all the different building inspections?
Yeah, so I'll speak to the contract. So we do a yearly contract with PBI. We've been doing this for many years, since Doug Mulhall actually left us as our building official. We are looking at this year going into the review process, similar to what we did with our IT services, to see what else is out there, to make sure we're doing our due diligence, to make sure that we follow the right processes that way. In regards to in-house, we actually have an in-house building inspector, so Patrick Grunert, started with us in October of 2023. He worked his way up to be a Class 1 when he first started with us, and then in February of last year, he received his Class 2. We have to hire PBI because he does not have his Class 3. What Patrick wants to do in the future is actually work towards his Class 3. It's not an easy process. We need some practical experience. We also need him to also get his proper education as he goes through with that. But ultimately, that is a goal that Patrick has, and that's something that we've talked that he wants to do moving forward. By having a Class 3, then we have someone in-house who can actually do all buildings right now. So a really good example, Bob Baker, who is actually the head of PBI, is down here on a weekly basis doing inspections of the new hospital. We don't have an in-house person who can do that. Bob's able to come down and provide that service for us. But ultimately, that would be what our goal is down the future. Depending on how many inspections we still have, we may still have someone on retainer to provide some support that way. But ultimately, we hope that Patrick gets to that point to have all of his education and have that figured out for us.
Good. Any other questions or comments or input? No? We'll call the question then. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So next up is Board of Revision and Board of Revision Secretary appointments. We'll go to the Director of Finance for that.
Okay, so the City of Weyburn appoints a third-party Board of Revisions and Development Appeals Board each year. The Board of Revision's duties are outlined in the Board of Revision Assessment Appeal Manual. Property owners have the right to appeal their SAMA assessment property to the Board of Revisions. Appeal forms are sent directly to the board, and the secretary to the board then informs the property owner if their appeal is in good standing and approved. Upon approval, a meeting is set up with the property owner, SAMA, and the Board of Revisions to hear the reasons for the appeal. The Board of Revisions then determines how to process the appeal based on the facts presented by the property owner and SAMA. The duties of the Development Appeals Board are outlined in the Development Appeals Board Guide. The Development Appeals Board adjudicates appeals relating to matters under the Planning and Development Act of 2007, including but not limited to development permits, minor variances, subdivisions, development levies, servicing agreements, and demolition control districts. The city is required to appoint a Development Appeals Board pursuant to the Planning and Development Act and the city's zoning bylaw. So the City of Weyburn has contracted Western Municipal Consulting Limited as our Board of Revisions and Development Appeals Board since 2022. Western Municipal Consulting has provided their fees. There's no change from 2023, and a list of the members for 2025, which is attached. So we recommend that the City of Weyburn retain and appoint Western Municipal Consulting Limited as the Board of Revision and Development Appeals Board for 2025.
Thank you. A motion?
Your Worship, I'll make the motion that pursuant to subsection 192.1, the Cities Act, that the City of Weyburn appoints Western Municipal Consulting Limited to manage the board revision process for the term of January 2025 through December 31st, 2025.
Okay. Can I get a seconder?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Thank you. So there is going to be a total of 4 motions, is that right?
Yep.
So
we're starting at 187.
yeah.
And then 188, 89, 90. So that's the order it's going to go in.
Okay. Is that the one we started with? Boy, that'd be a lucky break, wouldn't it? Okay. Anyways, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I will ask the question now. Does anybody have questions or comments about what we're doing here with Western Municipal Consulting? Does anybody have concerns or anything that they would like to unpack on this? Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Your Worship. Laura, I know we used to do this locally. We used to appoint local people to do this. Is it more cost effective and easier on the education to have someone who does this all the time rather than having people from this area do this kind of work for us?
Yeah, so this board has been around for quite a few years, and as long as I've been here, we haven't done it locally, not for the Board of Revisions anyway. So, yeah, they're all qualified individuals.
Good. Laura, if I may, in your experience, has this been a satisfactory process for residents who have appealed? Do you feel like this works well? And maybe that's more of a question for the city manager, but I'm just curious because we don't hear that often, that folks are going through this process. So wondering what your feedback has been.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty good. They're a neutral ground for it, so the appeal is mostly between SAMA and ourselves, or SAMA and the homeowner. It doesn't really have much to do with they can't appeal their mill rate per se. It's all in their assessment, so.
And that's why I'm asking, because the city of Weyburn proper not involved in this. So have the residents who've gone through the appeal been satisfied with, maybe not with the outcome, that's for sure maybe not the case, but the process? Is it working well?
I would say so.
Yeah, and I can speak to it too. It's professionalism and expertise they're bringing to the table for us. You are correct. Someone may put an appeal in place and may not be happy with the process. Yeah. Or with the results, not the process, but the results. But really for us is to have those people in place, and especially they're not just doing stuff here. They're doing that in other municipalities as well, which helps to look at what's happening throughout the whole province and things like that. So it helps out a whole pile that way.
Yeah, and they would be familiar with how to present this to SAMA, what kind of stuff they're going to get back.
Correct.
So that's good. I just wanted to make sure that the residents were feeling satisfied with it. Okay, nothing else? We'll call the question then. All in favor? Carried. So which one did we do first, Tina?
We did 87. Does yours say 87 in the top corner there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. So,
Did you get a seconder?
yep, we did. Okay, we'll look for the next motion then.
Okay, I have 188.
Perfect. Then you go next.
Okay.
Okay.
Your Worship, I would move that pursuant to subsection 193(1) of the Cities Act, the City of Weyburn appoints Nicole Hoskins with Western Municipal Consulting Limited as Secretary to the Board of Revision for the term of January 1st, 2025 through to December 31st, 2025, remuneration as set out in Western Municipal Consulting Limited fee schedule. There's another part to this, but I think the sentence is incomplete. It just says, if the secretary is unable to perform her secretarial functions.
Then Larry does it. It's just cut off.
I believe they'll appoint another secretary as required.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any discussion on this part? Nope. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Who's next?
So I got the last one, and I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name in this, but I move that pursuant to subsection 214(1) of the Plan and Development Act 2017, the City of Weyburn appoints Western Municipal Consulting Limited to manage the Development Appeals Board process for the term of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025, remuneration as set out in the Western Municipal Appeals Consulting Fee Schedule, with the following to serve as members of the Development Appeals Board: Dave Guernsey, Dave Thompson, Donna Ray Zadorov, Gordon Parkinson, Jeff Hutton, Kevin Killiker, Mike Waschuk, Stu Demmons, Tim Lafreniere, Wayne Adams, Ken Friesen, Femi Ogrundra, Fife Ogond, Maureen Jicklin, Jamie Thiessen, Stu Hayward, Pam Malak, Barry Clark, John Krill, Christopher Blumen, Alan Swatsky, Mike Malacca, Hanny Alman, Kimberly Spears, Nick Koroluk, Farah Ovens, J.D. Mazer, Jordan Boys, Kenneth Tan, Tyler Shandaro, and Rick Leahy. The chair shall be responsible for naming no fewer than 3 members for the hearing of any matter. Where the chair does not include themselves among the appointees, the members appointed for a hearing shall determine the chair for the hearing amongst their members.
Thank you.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
All right. Any commentary on that or questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Go ahead.
I think you're going to take the privilege of me dispersing these away because I got the easy one. I'm sorry, Councillor Jenke. Anyway, I make the motion that pursuant to subsection 216(3)(a) of the Planning and Development Act 2007, the City of Weyburn appoints Claudette McGuire with Western Municipal Consulting Limited as Secretary to the Development Appeals Board for the term of January the 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025. Remuneration set out as in the Western Municipal Consulting Limited fee schedule. If the Secretary is unable to perform the administrative functions, they may appoint a recording secretary for the purposes of any hearing.
All right, can we get a second?
I can second that, Your Worship.
Thank you. Okay, the last chance for deep discussion on this one. Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we have a bylaw under introductions of bylaws. This is a new portable sign bylaw, and we will turn this over to Shirley Malcolm, our development officer.
All right. Okay, so the current portable sign bylaw was last amended in 2014 to replace the portable sign bylaw 2012-3231. The City of Weyburn began to see an increase in unpermitted portable signs on both commercial and city property. At the time of record taking, there were at least 41 locations throughout the city that had one or more portable signs displayed, with approximately 67 signs altogether. This exceeds what the city presently has on file as valid permits that were issued. The city has issued 36 portable sign permits for the 2024 period, with no way of physically tracking which signs have been paid for and which signs have not. This is a result of signs not having the owner's information displayed, or these signs are not in the placement location listed on the application forms, as well as the permits. To effectively control the number of signs displayed around the city and effective inventory control, administration is requesting amendments to the current bylaw 2014-3290. The portable sign bylaw amendments were completed based on research of other municipalities' portable sign bylaws, as well as our own. Updated regulations on setbacks, size, permitted areas, as well as enforcement, penalties, and costs are noticeable throughout the amended bylaw. The city plans on implementing a color-coded sticker system for persons or businesses that went through the proper channels to get a permit for their signs. Each year, there will be a different color sticker, and it is expected that these stickers be placed on the side of the sign to allow easy visibility by city officials. For signs that are not adorned with the appropriate stickers, the owners will ultimately go through the enforcement and penalties process. Once the sticker is placed on the sign, removal and temporary placement on another sign will be impossible, as the sticker will lose its adhesiveness. If council wishes to consider implementing the amended portable sign bylaw, the city's zoning bylaw would need to be amended to reflect the changes. So if you scroll down, this is an example of what the sticker will look like. And it has the Weyburn logo, what the sticker is for, and a registration number and a valid date. So council options. Option 1, that council gives first reading to bylaw 2024-3489 as presented and direct administration to bring the bylaw back for a second and third reading at a future meeting. Option 2, council requests amendments to bylaw 2024-3489 before a first reading. And option 3, council refuses to give first reading to bylaw 2024-3489. So our recommendation, option 1, that council gives first reading to bylaw 2024-3489 as presented and direct administration to bring the bylaw back for a second and third reading at a future meeting.
Thanks, Shirley. Can we get a motion to get this on the floor?
Your Worship, I will make a motion that council give first reading to bylaw 2024-3489 as presented and direct administration to bring the bylaw back for second and third reading at a future meeting.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder?
Your Worship, I would second that motion.
Thanks. Okay, conversation.
Shirley, is this similar to other communities' bylaws? If we went to, say, Moose Jaw or Regina or wherever, would be similar to this?
Yes. So when we did our research, we did look at Estevan, Moose Jaw, Regina, Saskatoon, Prince Albert on their sign bylaws, and as well as our own, and I looked at the differences. So I just made a few changes to ours to kind of reflect what everybody else had on and what would be more applicable for us as a municipality.
Okay, thank you.
John?
Thank you, Your Worship. Shirley, just to make the public aware of the effect that this, I mean, what are the fines? What is the recourse of the city in situations where there is not a permit? What, just to let the public know what this actually means.
Right, so the first phase would be to give notice to the owners, if we have that information on file, and then, so that would be in means of a letter or talking, it would be done through our bylaw enforcement officer. So she'll be the one to give written notice, and then if they still don't comply by then, ultimately a fine will be handed down and confiscation of the sign.
Thank you.
No more? Todd?
Generally with changes like this, is there an education period where we can say, hey, you might have got away with it before, but no, not now?
Yes, so that's why we're wanting to do this right now, so that we have enough time to put the information out there to everyone that have signs, whether permitted or unpermitted throughout the city.
Anybody else? Shirley, it's important to note, this is not to get in the way of people using signs.
Correct.
This is to ensure that signs are placed where they are allowed to be placed, and they aren't placed where they aren't allowed to be placed. So going forward, so that we're only doing the first reading of this bylaw tonight. If somebody had a concern about this, or a question, probably more likely, would they reach out, I guess, to the development officer for those questions? So would encourage people, if you have questions about this going forward, we won't see it for a few weeks, again, here at council. So if you have questions, reach out to Shirley and get your questions answered. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Any other questions, comments? All right. We don't have a motion, do we? Do we get a motion? Yeah. Okay. I'm new here, eh? Okay. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. I get a pass one day. On to new business. First up is a quick one on municipal revenue sharing. We'll look to the city manager for this one.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. So the government of Saskatchewan provides funding to each local municipality to support the delivery of community services through municipal revenue sharing program. The annual program gives municipalities an amount based on 3/4 of 1 point of the provincial sales tax revenue collected from two years earlier. This year, the city of Weyburn receives just shy of $2.6 million through the program. So as a requirement, all Saskatchewan municipalities are eligible for the municipal revenue sharing program, but to receive the grant, we were required to do the following and submit the following to the provincial government. So first is submission of the audited annual financial statement to the ministry. Second is submission of the public reporting on municipal waterworks to the ministry, which is applicable to our municipality. Ensure that all our education property taxes are in good standing. With respect to the EPT reporting and minutes. Adoption of the council procedures bylaw. Adoption of an employee's code of conduct. And filing and annually updating of public disclosure statements from all members of council as required. So all municipalities are required to complete the declaration of eligibility and have it submitted to the Ministry of Government Relations no later than January 31st of next year. A completed declaration requires a resolution of council confirming that the municipality meets all eligibility requirements, which I am saying that we as a municipality do meet all requirements put in front. So I am recommending that City Council provide the province with the required resolution confirming that the City of Weyburn meets all eligibility requirements of the Municipal Revenue Sharing Program.
Very good, thank you. Can we get a motion?
Your Worship, I move that City Council provide the province with a required resolution confirming the City of Weyburn meets all eligibility requirements for the Municipal Revenue Sharing Program.
Thank you. And a seconder?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have questions on this one?
I do have one question. Just, do they require actual submissions or that, or just that we acknowledge that we do meet them?
No, we're actually required to submit some of those documents to the province. So audit financial statements, the waterworks, the property taxes, we have to remit all that stuff back to the province and notify them that. The city clerk actually fills the application in for us. They just ask for the resolution and stating that we've done that. Then they'll do an audit to make sure that we've done all those things. This program has been in place this way, I believe, for 4 years now through this process, and it's quite an easy process. Our administrative staff is really great on meeting those deadlines required by the province and getting the required information. Like even going through some of them, they'll ask me for the council's procedures bylaw. They'll ask me for the code of conduct. Those have not changed. If they do make changes, we actually also have to submit those off to the province so they're aware of those changes. But it's all quite easy to do. It's in regular operations of what we do.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Call the question then. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Okay, onwards to the Fire Hall and Public Works Air Purification System RFP, and I believe Director Crow is going to speak to this.
Thank you, Your Worship. To optimize air quality and promote health and safety for all individuals located at the Weyburn Fire Hall and Public Works Building, $100,000 was included in the 2024 budget towards the purchase and installation of ceiling-mounted air purification units. An RFP was issued for an air filtration system to cover the Fire Hall and Public Works mechanical bays with a closing date of November 1st at 1 p.m. A total of 3 companies registered for to review the tender, and with that, only 1 company placed a bid. So that bid came from Air Technology Solutions Canada Incorporated for a bid of $116,750. So Air Technology Solutions Canada Incorporated submitted a proposal to outfit the Public Works and Fire Hall mechanical and vehicle bays with 8 aeration filtration units at a price of $116,750, which includes the manufacturing, shipping, and installation costs. Air Technology Solutions Canada Incorporated has been in operations for 40 years throughout Canada and the United States. The system is 100% mutual aid compliant with systems installed across North America and the world, including numerous Saskatchewan Fire Hall locations, including the City of Estevan and Lloydminster. So the system scrubs the air of diesel exhaust and other potential carcinogenic contaminants, providing a safer environment for employees and volunteers to complete their necessary duties. Once installed, the system requires very minimal maintenance, which should be very manageable in-house. Air Technology Solutions Canada has provided an 8 to 10 week timeline for delivery. Therefore, installation of the system is expected to take place in February or March of 2025. So it's recommended that the installation of air purification systems in the Fire Hall and Public Works vehicle and mechanical bays be awarded to Air Technology Solutions Canada of Mississauga, Ontario at a cost of $116,750. And it's also recommended that a 2025 pre-budget approval of $16,750 be provided to increase the budget amount set for the project to $116,750 so that we stay on budget.
Thanks, Andrew. A motion?
Your Worship, I'll make the motion that the installation of air purification systems in the Fire Hall and Public Works vehicle and mechanical bays be awarded to Air Technology Solutions Canada of Mississauga, Ontario at a cost of $116,750. I also recommend that a 2025 pre-budget approval of $16,750 be provided to increase the budget amount set for this project to $116,750.
Okay, you got a seconder?
I'll second that motion, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any conversations around this? If you say this is exhausting, we're going home. Right?
Andrew, how did we, and maybe this probably predates myself on council, but how did we determine that we needed this? Was it a OH&S concern, or was it a health and safety? How did we get there?
Yeah, so this was a concern brought forward by our fire chief. There's recommendations from the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency, for fire departments to have these units within their facilities to add another layer of safety. When the fire crews come back from different incidents and stuff, they can often have different off-gassing and contaminants on not only the trucks, but also their gear as well. So this will help in the air out process and pull all those contaminants off of their gear, so they're not going back, so that the volunteers aren't climbing back into that contaminated gear afterwards. It should help clean it out and control the air quality. So it was really driven by the fire chief to initiate all of it. When reviewing our systems, we don't have the best exhaust controls on both sides of the facilities, and we thought that we could definitely increase the air quality for not only fire but also the mechanics bays as well, and everybody in that shop, because although you may be in a mechanics bay, the people in the offices are still being affected by the air quality. So it's just another layer to provide that safety to our people.
Okay, no, fair, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? I would just ask, because we're wading into budget as we speak, whether the city manager, director of finance, or maybe you, Andrew, just a brief explanation of what that means when we're doing a pre-budget approval.
Looks like I'm taking this one tonight. I'll do this one. So we've done this in the past. So we have to make sure that we give pretty much a heads up to council that if budget does go forward and we go through budget, that you can't remove that. That's why we do pre-budget approvals. This project has been a carryover for 2 years, 3 years?
We initiated this in 2023.
2023. So, we got a few years that way. So yeah, so what happens is when council does a pre-budget, when we take it to budget, if you guys approve it tonight, you can't remove it through the budget process after that.
Yeah. Good. That's good. Thank you. Yeah. So even though this is on paper will be a 2025 project, $100,000 of it will come from 2024's budget.
That's correct, Your Worship.
Yeah, and I'll also add that it was actually carried over from 2023 already.
Right.
So this initiated as a 2023 budget item, and now we need to add to it a little bit to cover the costs.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Anything else? All right. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Here we are. The 2025 water treatment chemical supply tender. This is the funnest one ever. So we'll go to the Director of Engineering, Cognate, for this one. Thank you.
Thank you. The City of Weyburn is committed to providing a safe and sufficient supply of drinking water to the residents. Weyburn's water comes from Nickel Lake to the water treatment plant, where it goes through a series of treatments, filtration system, and disinfection process before being sent to the distribution system. The chemicals required for the treatment and disinfection processes used by the Weyburn Water Treatment Plant are supplied and delivered by various licensed chemical suppliers. On October 31st, 2024, the City of Weyburn 2025 Water Treatment Chemical Supply Tender was posted on the city's online bidding portal, Bids and Tenders, and SAS Tenders. Chemicals obtained through the competitive bid process will be utilized in water treatment processes in 2025 under annual contracts. Quotations were to be received by the City of Weyburn by November 15th, 2024 at 1 p.m. A total of 7 tenders were received, and the results of the qualifying tenders are shown below in the below table. As you can see, the low bids are bolded with the exception of potassium permanganate. That is due to ClearTech Industries proposing a non-qualifying supply manufacturer. So the recommendation is, it is recommended that the following 2025 water treatment plant chemical supply be awarded as follows. Brentag Canada, Inc. be awarded the supplies of potassium permanganate for $7.40 per kilogram, sodium hydroxide solution for 79 cents a kilogram, and sodium hypochlorite for $2.74 a kilogram. Clearwater Equipment and Technologies be awarded the supplies of ammonium sulfate for $3.45 a kilogram, and hydrofluorosilicic acid for about 7 cents a kilogram for 47% solution. ClearTech Industries, Inc. be awarded the supply of chlorine gas for $2.36 per kilogram. Univar Canada Limited be awarded the supply of Flopam flocculant for $9.54 a kilogram. And lastly, Chemtrade Chemicals Canada Limited be awarded the supply of liquid aluminum sulfate for 45 cents a kilogram.
Thank you. I noticed your microphone cutting out a little bit there, so whoever's reading this motion will want to be very clear. So if I could get a motion for this one, please.
Your Worship, I believe this is some sort of hazing ritual.
I wouldn't call it that.
Yeah. So I'd like to make the motion as follows. For the 2025 water treatment chemical supply will be awarded as presented.
Your Worship, I am delighted to second that motion.
Thank you very much. So does anybody have any questions about the ammonium sulfate or the permanganate? Sorry, Renee, I tried.
Your Worship, I think the motion should be read into the minutes, though.
I mean, I think it's best practice in a governance standpoint.
Absolutely.
I suppose we'll let it go. Okay, seriously, no questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. And thank you, Councillor Bador, for being a good sport. Just for the record, that didn't start on your desk. I won't tell you where it started, but it didn't start on yours. I don't know. Anyways, onwards to inquiries and announcements. Councillor Morissette.
Thank you, Worship. For the record, Councillor Bador, in 2012, I got exactly the same one put on my desk, and I wasn't as smart as you were to amend it. I just read it.
I would like to thank Councillor Larry Higgs for the advice.
Oh. Huh. On that fun note, I do actually have an announcement. Thank you, everyone, to the people who donated to the Weyburn Public Library book sale. $4,200 was raised in book sales alone, and an additional $1,500 was raised through the silent auction and Christmas items auction. So again, thank you again for all your support, and the spring book sale will be held the first week of April.
Thank you. Councillor Janke.
Yeah, first and foremost, I will be bringing forth a motion of censure against Councillor Higgs for coaching Councillor Bador. That's unacceptable.
Correct.
Seriously, though, I did get a question about the amount of salt that we are using on the roads, and more specifically, how that is calculated and how we know how much is too much and too little. And I thought that was a worthy question to bring forward to engineering.
Thank you, Councillor Janke. So as far as we know, the procedures haven't changed over the last 10 plus years. It is the duties and responsibilities of the Transportation Department to determine when to ensure that the roads are safe for all the residents. So the amounts of salt and sand and application rates and quantities are based on conditions. So it is temperature, obviously temperature dependent, with more freezing rain, lower temperatures. they do apply it more so. So with that too, the ratio, it changes with temperature. So between that 0 and minus 10 degrees Celsius, it's a 2-to-1 ratio of sand to salt. And then when it's colder than minus 10, it is that's opposite actually, 1-to-1 ratio in the warmer temperatures, and then the 2-to-1 ratio when it's colder. So.
Perfect. Thank you, Renee.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Sadlowski.
I just wanted to take a moment and recognize Regan Lanning and the Weyburn Arts Council. The current exhibit in the Spark Centre was recently featured as the cover story in the Carfax newsletter, Saskatchewan Carfax newsletter. Regan's worked hard to create this exhibit showcasing our art collection and how all of the artists are tied together. It's an incredible exhibit, and it's open until the first week of January.
Yeah. Thank you. It is tremendous. It's tremendous, the exhibit. I would agree. Councillor Higgs.
You only get one off, Renee, and then we come back to engineering. Snow removal as a whole, the project as a whole, I think has went reasonably well. I just heard on the way to council tonight that Saskatoon isn't even going to do residential streets this go around with over a foot of snow. So, but that being said, when can we sort of expect the time frame for the citywide clean if we're doing one this time?
So it's based on, if you're talking about when we're going to get into the residential streets, it's based on the amounts of storm events that we're going to get. As for right now, where we're sitting, we have a good, we completed the primaries, completed the secondaries by today. They are currently working on the collectors. If we have no more snow events and no more having to go back to priorities, they could start going into residentials. Again, it is all weather dependent. After a snow event, they start back from square one as per our policy, and they start back on the priorities, work their way through secondaries and collectors, and that way.
Good. Yeah, Councillor Corrigan.
Just to follow up to snow removal, because it's a question that I get a lot. Whenever we see snow and a lot of snow and storms close together, that we must be blowing the roof off the snow removal budget. So just out of curiosity, how are we doing so far this year for 2024 budget-wise?
I actually don't have that offhand. I'd have to get back to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Just, I think we should also thank everybody, like residents for sure, were patient, drove carefully, and let the crews work through. And also want to thank the crews and our contractors. They're out there all night. Like I seen them past midnight working, so we're grateful for that. I think that's it for those who didn't catch the joke earlier, and of those of us that knew Brent Allen, I'm sure he was behind whatever happened here tonight. So there's a giggle from somewhere happening right now. Okay, I think that's it. Yes? Our next meeting will be Monday, December 9th, right here, 6 o'clock. And with that, I think we can call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
If you'd like to share your feedback on the program you just watched, contact us today